as we do most mornings, I'm going to read from you a excerpt from a book, A Different Kind of Power, a memoir by Jacinda Ardern, and it would increasingly appear an AI program, maybe Grok. All right, so we last left off with Jacinda with a nipple glass in Whanganui, and it was just ahead of the 2020 election. Well, let's fast forward to the night of the 2020 election, 17th of October 2020. And Jacinda's been at home eating dip with Clark and her parents and a few other people. By night's end, Labour had won the 2020 election with more than 50% of the vote, an outcome no party had seen since we'd shifted to the new electoral system in 1996. It was a win so decisive that we didn't need New Zealand First anymore. We didn't need Winston Peters to hold on to government. But even as our numbers kept ticking up, I never allowed myself to get carried away. They want you to keep managing COVID. That's all this means. No, I don't think that was what it meant, Jacinda. By the time we were ready to leave home and make the short trip to the city, I felt as if the outcome were an endorsement rather than a victory. Or maybe it's just a result of not having a proper democratic process. After all the official duties were done, Clark and I retired to a hotel a few blocks from the campaign event. Mum and Dad were looking after Neve, and this, we thought, might be the perfect chance to sleep a little bit longer. Oh, I was going to get racy there. At 7 a.m, though, I got a message from Raj. Can you talk? Yes, I replied. I'm outside your door. Stalky, Raj. Very, very bloody stalking, mate. In the hotel hallway, Raj looked at the floor. His usually dishevelled hair was even more dishevelled. When he finally looked up, he didn't smile, nor did he say a word. He didn't even need to, I knew. The latest case was a port worker in Taranaki. Raj had found out soon after the polls closed and decided to spare me the knowledge until morning, giving me a tiny window to simply enjoy our victory. But here it was. The whole difficult process of managing COVID started all over again. Just before New Year's, Clark and I stood at a music... So I don't know, it's just like, whoa, I just want to... And just before New Year's, Clark and I stood at a music festival in Whangamata, watching from the wings as a band called Shapeshifter played. The sun was beginning to set over the field where people were now dancing, the light golden as the crowd waved their arms in the air. People leaned against the railings that held up phones, capturing the moment. They sang and danced, moving up and down in rhythm in one giant joyful mass. In the northern hemisphere, COVID was raging. Hundreds of thousands of people in the US had died from COVID that year, a number that would spike in the months ahead. In Spain, where Fiona lived, the numbers were in the tens of thousands. In New Zealand, that number was 25, and I knew the stories and circumstances of almost all of them. In countries all over the world, people had spent so much time without their loved ones, and it would likely continue for quite a bit longer. And here we were at a festival. The scene in front of me was one I'd wished for and we'd worked for, a chance for everyone to just enjoy the holidays, to close out this long, anxious year with a sense of freedom and joyful release. For months I'd been thinking, just let them have New Year's. Now here we were. I'd always been an optimist who planned for the worst-case scenario, but the worst-case scenario seemed so much closer these days, and I was finding it increasingly hard to think about anything else other than catastrophe. I reminded myself that soon it would be over, vaccines would arrive, not as early as they would in places that were experiencing large losses of life, and the rollout would pose its own challenges, but they would be here. We would have a way out of this pandemic. We just needed to hang on. But until then, in the evening sunlight, as Clark nodded his head to the music, and as thousands of people danced as if their lives depended on it, all I could think was, what if there is a COVID case in that crowd right now? boy, she knows how to lift the mood, doesn't she? So we haven't even got to the vaccine yet, and that'll be the really hot stuff. But there we have it. I think we are getting a picture of a young woman absolutely obsessed by COVID, who literally is losing her mind and her grip on reality.